Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to First Parish
Hi.
Church in Billerica, a Unitarian Universalist welcoming congregation. Whoever you are or wherever you are on life's journey, you're welcome here this morning. And although we no longer can have a coffee hour because of COVID, of course, we please stay and chat a bit. It's still fairly nice outside, and we've been gathering in little groups and catching up with each other after the service. My name is Brita. I'm going to be the worship assistant for today's service. And our worship leader this morning is Reverend Eugene Widrick, known to most of us as Woody. He was our minister for a number of years. He is just wonderful. He's seen so much. He has such wonderful stories. And he's our minister emeritus.
I was born on a family farm in northern New York. Mennonites, actually, Mennonite colony. And Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, and other occasions were a time of family gatherings. They still are. We attended a wedding some years ago at a great niece's, and there were like 300 people at the reception, all sitting around potluck tables. You had no idea what the menu was. It was just whatever people brought. Anyhow, this was the kind of thing we did at my grandmother's house on the farm. A large table was put together out of planks and sawhorses, covered with cloth, and a feast was prepared. Family and friends would arrive, each bringing something: beef, pork, venison, Krogan bologna. If you've never had Krogan bologna, you have missed one of the great joys of life. Locally made in northern New York, in a local butcher shop. Vegetables, desserts, and we feasted. Aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors. Someone said grace and the food was passed. I kept my eye on the platter of chicken in hopes that my favorite part of the bird would not be snatched before it got to me. The part of bird that I was so concerned about was the neck of the chicken or the turkey. I did not realize as a youth that there was no competition for it. The neck is downgraded. There's even a song came out in 1942 titled "I Get the Neck of the Chicken." And the singer laments how miserable his life is. He gets the neck of the chicken. He gets the leaky umbrella. He has to go round up the cows and the corn. But I still like the neck. It's been a long time since we bought a frozen turkey or frozen chicken. So they used to include the neck with the giblets. I don't know if they still do or not, but it was the part of the bird that I loved. I still do. We all have our likes and dislikes and ways of classifying and not classifying people. One of the ones that comes up is being civilized. How do we define civilized? We should be civilized. And how does it work? In 1452, the Pope issued what is called a bull, an official document. A bull derives from the Latin word bulla, Bulla, and it was a leaden seal, as a seal on the document. So when it came out, this lead seal would be attached to it to make it genuine. This is a legal document. This applies with all the authority of the church. The purpose of the 1452 bull was to give permission to Spain and other Catholic countries the right to enslave, conquer, take over non-Catholic countries. They could be claimed as property belonging to the Christian monarch that you served. Because they weren't Christians, they had no standing. Protestants liked this idea and they copied it. We are a civilized people, they were saying, and we have a right to do with you as we will, because you're not civilized. I came across a thing recently by a writer who said that part of our problem as inheritors of a Christian civilization is that the Old Testament concept of the Jews as chosen people was taken over by the Christians, and they decided that they were the chosen people. And you go to a lot of our churches and they still say that. And this was easily turned into a concept of racism. Europeans, white people, are the chosen people. In this country, we came up in 1845 with the concept of manifest destiny. It was our destiny to rule America from sea to shining sea. And all those other people that were already there were just in the way. It's a writer named John Pavlovitz, who has a book out, If God is Love, Don't Be a Jerk, in which he offers the advice, thou shalt not be horrible. And he asks, quote, is the most important, says the most important question we ask of belief is not, is it true, but rather, is it helpful? Is it helpful? Is what we believe helpful to ourselves and to other people? There was a woman in church in New Hampshire many years ago, member of the church that I was serving, had her hip replaced. In her case, something went terribly wrong. It turned out that the prosthesis they put in hadn't been sterile. So she had developed a terrible infection and was living on massive doses of penicillin. And they had to open up her hip and remove the prosthesis and scrape the bone and put it all back together. And the doctors told her that she should be prepared for the fact that this was not going to go well, that she might not even recover from the surgery. And I went to see her the day before the surgery. And she said to me, I'm not worried. I've had a good life. I've had good marriage. I have children and grandchildren I love. And I'm happy. Doesn't matter what happens to me tomorrow. My life is complete. Well, I went away feeling, this lady helped me more than I helped her. Fortunately, she recovered, went well. Is what we believe helpful? I never questioned her theology or anything like that, but whatever she believed, it was helpful. She was thankful. She felt joy. She felt complete. Are we thankful and grateful and joyful? What do we believe, and is it helpful? Was manifest destiny a helpful idea? Ask the Native Americans if you really want to know. Thanksgiving is a harvest festival. We are thankful for food and foods, the gifts of life, religious celebrations, and secular celebrations. My knees are bothering me. I'm going to sit. Can you see me all right? The religious part of Thanksgiving is gathering in churches, singing songs, the things that we do to express our thankfulness. The secular part is gathering with family and friends, sharing a meal and memories and fun. And I think we can expand our sense of thankfulness to the newness. I mean, the pandemic has been awful. I mean, it's just, sitting here with masks and having to Zoom the program. I mean, but a lot has changed. People are changing their jobs. People are no longer willing to work for the minor wages that they used to get. People are beginning to think differently about their lives. A lot of changes have taken place. And we have a newness of life that seems to be coming out of it. We have a friend in the UK, United Kingdom, recently who sent out a Facebook message saying that the UK government, the British government, had done a survey of England and Wales. The United Kingdom is divided into parts: Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. But in England and Wales in 2020, last year, 29.3% of the children born were born to women who were not born in the UK. The largest group of foreign-born women was from Pakistan. The next largest group was from Romania. And our friend Helen wrote, "This is good news. It means that new ideas and social ways are being introduced to widen and freshen our lives." Some years ago when I was serving here, the hall downstairs was rented out. I guess it still would be if it wasn't for pandemic. And I was in the office and I was leaving. I went out and there was a mob of people, Indians, Indians, in Indian dress, mostly, in the hall. And as I went out the back door, I saw a man, one of them, sitting out in the garden, smoking a cigarette. So I went over and introduced myself and I said, "What's going on here?" And he gave me the name of something. I'd forgotten the name right away. And then he went on to explain it's a rite of passage. It's a gathering for family and friends and neighbors and community to watch a baby being given its first solid food. Its first solid food. And I thought, wonderful. What a wonderful thing to do. My baby is growing and it's now ready to eat solid food. And we're going to witness this as a celebration for everybody. I wouldn't have thought of that as a special occasion, but they did. And I think, well, it's not going to spread all over the country, but I think it should be, it could be. Let's celebrate this growing life. And first solid food is important. Well worth sharing. Columbus Day, Thanksgiving have become justifiably, I believe, controversial. The history of what followed Columbus discovering America is painful. There was a program on PBS the other night about lost cities of North America. They have one site of mound builders. These were people that built piles of dirt the size of pyramids. My wife's family came from Auburn, New York, and there was a mound in Auburn, too big to build on, too steep, and it was used as a local cemetery because it was steep and, you couldn't build houses there. Joseph Smith, founder of the Mormon Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, people believed that the Indians had buried treasure in the mounds and they would dig in them and see if they could find it. And this is how he claims he found the Book of Mormon, was in one of these mounds. And out in the Midwest, apparently there was huge cities. They had one site that they're working on that probably had as much as 30,000 people living in a community of mound builders. Well, Columbus and his followers brought smallpox and measles and a number of other diseases with him that wiped out the Indian population. But remains of it are still there. We honor that memory in this church every Sunday. There was a man named William Laurence Sullivan who was a Catholic priest and became a Unitarian. And he wrote a statement of faith, but part of it goes to outgrow the past but not to extinguish it. To seek the wisdom that liberates and the loyalty that consecrates. We don't want to bury the past. We want to remember it so that we don't repeat it, so that we understand why things are the way they are. To go beyond our mistakes, to understand the beauty in our differences. Part of our mistakes in the past have been to insist that everybody has to be like us. There was even a belief at one time that as Indians became civilized, American Indians became civilized, their skins would turn white. They turn into white people. And, you know, this was in the 1800s. There are a lot of people that believe this. We had Indian schools. There was one in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. They would take Indian children away from their families and send them to Indian schools where they had to wear white people's clothes and were punished if they spoke any Indian. They had to learn and speak only English. And they were severely punished if they were caught speaking in their native tongue. And this was to civilize them, make them be like us. We do not want to forget that. We don't want to repeat it. The philosopher George Santayana, taught at Harvard, left us with the claim, those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it. And we have to be very careful about repeating the past, about picking out the people that we think are not as good as we are and treating them that way. So Thanksgiving is upon us. I think a Christian mystic named Meister Eckhart, who lived from 1260 to 1328, gave us the best advice. His words, if the only prayer you say in your entire life, if the only prayer you say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough. So at this Thanksgiving, in this occasion, we say thank you. Please join with us in extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we gather together again. Please join in the hymn.
Life is the greatest gift of all the riches of this earth. Life and its creatures, great and small, of high and lowly birth. So treasure it and measure it with deeds of shining worth. Mine is the brightest gift of all, its thoughts, O barrier large. It seeks creations, hidden plans, it sweats amounts of lives. It rains the wind, it shades the storm, it weighs the outmost stars. We are of light, its shining gift, the measure of all things. Up from the dust, our temples lift, our vision stores on wings. For seed and root, for flower and fruit, our grateful spirits sing.
For the labor, the love, the care that gave us the lights of this and every day, we say thanks. For the nourishment of our spirit, the challenges that strengthen us, the friends we have on our journey, we sing thanks. For all that is in our lives, for all these good gifts, we whisper thanks. Overflowing with gratitude, let us shout thanks. Amen.